It's been a little while. Thanks for sticking with me. I wasn't idle. Projects kept moving, life kept moving, and like a lot of people, I felt pressure of the economy doing what it does best, squeezing time, energy, and creativity out of you. But DIY helps. It always has. As the majority lose purchasing power and things get tighter, being able to build, fix, and adapt isn't optional anymore. It's necessary. So I'm getting back into it slowly but deliberately. I recently purchased a pair of freezers. These are upright freezers. They will replace the chest style freezer that I have. That freezer was a pain to get the stuff to the bottom. In fact, things were left in there for a year, 2 years, and ended up being thrown out. Not because they were spoiled, but for just safety's sake. But before I can install these and they're going into the laundry room, I need to plan. I need to put them on a pedestal. That way the laundry room will remain functional. More about that a little later. The original plan was to build a shelf spanning the width of the laundry room. I quickly realized that the area was not square. I could persist through this. However, I then realized there were other issues. There was no door trim, no door jamb on the right side. With these problems compounding, I decided to take a different approach. Since the wall wouldn't work, I can use the floor. This area is very much out of square. I thought about how it would look, but most importantly, how it would affect the construction process. I have the door jamb to put in, the trim to put in, etc. This design was a no-go. I settled on this design. It removes all constraints and it will fit its function and purpose. Now that the footprint is in place, I'll proceed with constructing the frame. I'll be using a technique similar to constructing 2x4 walls. The height is determined by a detergent bottle plus 3 inches, but the height of a laundry basket is better. Bleach bottles tend to be the tallest, so that's a good barometer as well. I pre-cut the pieces as most of the pieces are the same length. Now that I have my pieces pre-cut, the next thing is to assemble. I will be using pocket screws to do the assembly, but before I can do that, I need to dial it in to make sure it will be joined correctly. I'm creating the pocket holes for the screws. There'll be 6 screws per part. Ideally, 2 screws per end on one side and 1 screw same end on the opposite side. I'll not be doing that. I'll be placing all 3 screws on the same end, same side. The rationale here is the frame will be strong enough to hold the freezers full of food plus other things stacked on top of it. Although it's built like a wall, it won't be doing the function of a wall. All pieces cut and all holes drilled. I know exactly how much fasteners I will need. I don't have enough, so I'll have to use nails. Using the limited amount of pocket screws that I had of this length, I assembled the base and its mirror, the top. Then, the members that go between, that's the vertical portions, I pre-drill some holes and then I fasten those with screws. I also use framing nails to secure the vertical sections. Came out pretty well. So I'm ended up with a very strong and sturdy structure upon to which I can attach the rest of the parts. I'm now assembling the cubes. These will fit inside the frame and allow for a shelf for the laundry detergent, etc. to sit on. This part was pretty standard. I used pocket holes to assemble the entire thing. I have lost daylight, so I'll catch you in the morning. But before you go, please like, share, and subscribe. I'm now attaching the sides. This is how I did it. I outlined where the side intersects with the frame. This way, I can put glue between the pencil marks. Doing so will keep things nice and neat. I won't have any glue spillouts, for instance. I'm using CA glue at the corners. This will cure quickly and allow time for the wood glue to cure while holding the side in place. I did throw a propane tank that I had outside to give it a little more weight, but this may have not been necessary. The next thing I did was to cut the side a bit large, and the reason for that is I'm using framing lumber, which is not exactly precise. So one side may be slightly higher than the other. Now I use tape to secure an area where I'm going to cut the excess from, and then I use a Japanese pull saw to cut through the tape, cutting the excess along with it. And this way I was able to attach the sides. It is a bit of a slow process because I have to wait about 24 hours for the glue to fully cure, and I did both sides. I flipped this over and did the other side and allowed for them to cure both at once. I had mentioned that the frame itself is not quite perfect, and in this case it caused there to be a slight deviation. So I'm fixing this with a pull saw. I'm going to saw it flush. That means I'm going to cut into the frame a little bit to correct this. Time to dry fit. It didn't go in as smoothly as I would like, but it fits. Now the frame has been outside for a little bit and it was exposed to the elements, so it may have shifted in dimension. In addition to that, I'm using millimeters instead of inches. Millimeters gave me a very precise fit. Good for me. I've cut the top, now it's time to secure it. The top was cut allowing an overhang of about an inch all around except at the back. I'll be screwing from the underside up into the top to hold it in place. A little detail that you have missed is right at the center of the frame, right above my elbow there. You'll see a pencil mark. This allows me to get the perfect alignment, and I have the clamps securing it in place while I put the screws in. Now it is time to paint. I haven't used this gun in a little bit. I was moving a little bit too fast there, so it ended up a little bit blotchy, but eventually I dialed it in and smooth as she goes. There was a slight flaw. I used a track saw to cut down the pieces and the blade slipped a little bit, so it ended up with a gouge. To fix this, I'm going to fill the space with glue. I could have used sawdust mixed with glue, that probably would have been better. However, I'm using glue only. The idea is to fill the space with glue. Once it cures, I paint it over and it would be hidden or not noticeable. This is where the imperfection was. Best to have the final measurements before working on the face frame. Mistakes were made. The freezers were outside and needed them installed, so I installed the pedestal without the face frame. Now I have some additional work to do. I have to trim these edges so that the face frame will lay flush. For that reason, I was getting into quite a bit more work, and I wanted to move the freezers from outside, put them into use. And there is additional work after the freezer is installed, not just packing and unpacking. Let's get into that. One freezer is for raw meats and treats. Now I have to do something special to that freezer, and I'm going to present that in a minute. The other freezer is for frozen foods, things like frozen patties, chicken nuggets, French fries, chicken sticks, fish sticks, etc. This is for my children, so they can just grab something, heat it up in the toaster oven or the air fryer, and they're good to go for a snack. This way, if I'm busy, then they can have something to eat until dinner is served. Okay, going on to the other freezer. I didn't think it would come to this. I'm installing a lock on the freezer. You're supposed to have your whole home open and secure in your property, but when it comes to treats, that's not the case. I cleaned the area with rubbing alcohol, did some measurements and drew some pencil lines so I know exactly where the lock is to go. This lock does not need a smartphone. It uses a USB device, a dongle, to reset it. It feels like hacking. It has an adhesive, and I use that to set it in place until I'm able to secure it with screws. When it comes to the adhesive, Best practice is hold it in place for 30 seconds. I then pre-drilled the holes and then installed the screw. I did the same thing to the side. However, I did not clean the side initially, so I did that afterwards. Now, I'm going to test the lock. In order to do that, I had to program in my fingerprints. And it's very similar to putting your fingerprint on a smartphone. You keep touching it over and over and over and over and over again until it stops. Basically, in this case, it's a flashing light. It communicates with light, not necessarily beeps and so forth. Then I'm able to close and open the freezer as needed using my thumb or index finger. Now I'm wearing gloves, yes, but these gloves actually reveal your fingerprint. Amazing. So I'm able to open the freezer with these gloves. Now, one of the things I have in there is some Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Yes, it's not the best, but the family loves it. Love it so much that if I have Haagen-Dazs ice cream in the freezer, it'll be gone. Yes, all 16, 15, or 18 pieces, how much ever it is, it'll be gone within one afternoon or one night. And I don't want my kids eating too much sweet. It's a treat that means once or twice a week preferably. All right, so that brings me to the end of this presentation. The pedestal for freezer. So I highly recommend it. There's still more to do. I have the face frame, which is coming next. But the hard part is done and I have a functional piece of furniture. Now, I implore you to subscribe and keep up with me. Something's cooking. All right, and thanks for watching. Thanks for your attention. And see you on the next one. The day is won.